after we had done all sorts of things together, which I'm not even going to say because otherwise I'll get turned on. And
Oh, come on. Tell the story.
really?
Yeah.
What kind of podcast do you do?
This one.
Jesus.
Tell the story. Set the scene.
Who listens to this? You
Tell us what happened.
bunch of perverts listening there.
Bless you, perverts.
Bless you, yeah. More, please. Just go out and spread the good word.
Horizontal with Lila. Horizontal with Lila.
Hello, horizontal lover. This is the podcast about sex, love, and relationships of all kinds that's entirely recorded while lying down. Usually, I aim to make every recording more of a long-form conversation and less of an interview. But the world is topsy-turvy, and so is Season 4, my season of experiments. This episode is a traditional interview, albeit an explicit one, mostly presented in the style of NPR. Instead of my usual horizontal conversation, in which I share as openly and vulnerably as my guest, for this episode, I'll be your narrator, guiding you through the life of an oversexed little Italian boy who grows up to be an oversexed British man, utilizing choice clips from his tales. In this and the following episode, I lie down with Iena, vast lover of womankind, kinkster, rope aficionado, photographer, former porn producer, and sadist extraordinaire. I met him through the Shibari community in Canggu. He once suspended me from a piece of bamboo in a pose that looked sort of like a praying mantis. The first half of our interview is available in all the podcast places for all you horizontalists, and the latter half is available exclusively to patrons of the horizontal arts. So, if you want to hear Iena's extreme tale of a bewildering sexual exploit involving a gorgeous Scandinavian woman on top and something he did not exactly consent to, become a patron to listen to the second part of this interview. Navigate directly to patreon.com/horizontal with Lila. Patreon is spelled patreon.com/horizontal with Lila. $7 a month gives you access to over 50 episodes not available to the general public, as well as contributing to keep Horizontal independent, uncensored, and ad-free. In this part, we traverse from Iena's 4-year-old erections through nudie mags in his crib, his obsession with full bush, newsstands, and porn, 10 years of sexual mentoring, an abiding love of tits, foreplay and the orgasmic platform, the first time in his life he felt like he was one cock short, and losing his oral virginity. Now come lie down with us in Canggu, Bali, Indonesia. Iena says he's been oversexed since he was a very small child.
When I remember having my first erection, I was 4 years old. It's probably my earliest memory. I was at home. I was in my cage. I mean, in my crib. it was a crib,
in your
but
baby cage.
It had a slide down side with wooden bars, and I felt like I was. And I would hold on to the bars, right, and then I would lift my right leg to the side, like almost 90 degrees, like ballerinas do. I think I was watching like ballet something. I'll do that. And I remember it acted like a pump because as I was doing that, I'd get a little stiffy, right? And then I'd go like, look, and I'd like shake it about, like wiggle. Some things just never change. And then the family split in a 50-50 between, yes, that's my grandson, and, oh, this is awkward. Obviously, granddad and dad were a lot more proud than, so my mum was all right. And some others, like especially the girls, would be like, oh, okay, let's watch something else that's not ballet.
His early years were spent in backwoods southern Italy, and the homophobia was strong in his family. So strong that
They passed me some gentlemen's, or not so gentlemen's mags.
Do you know what they were, like the name of the publication?
I couldn't read.
You were 5.
I guess I learned about the mature female anatomy before I learned how to read and write.
Wow.
And they probably wasn't expecting me to get as into it as I did, because they shortly afterwards took him away.
Oh no.
I think they realized it had become a lot more morbid than they thought. I'm not sure what they thought would happen, but hello. Like, I was already an erection veteran of 1 year.
Oh, so did you find that this was a new cause of erections?
Of course.
Okay. I mean, not of course. You're 5 years old. Like, I don't know.
Well, my mum had to stop breastfeeding me at 3.5 months because I was biting her nipples off.
Some of Iena's proclivities developed quite young and continue to this day. And you're still a breast man? Is this?
Oh Jesus, that must be why.
Ah.
I think tits are pretty much the best thing in the world. They're better than steak.
Wow. Now that is a tall
I mean,
claim.
it depends on the tit and it depends on the steak, obvs. but pound for pound, or tit for tit, or tit for
Tit
tat.
for tat. Yeah.
I think tits win. Obviously, I've also just eaten, so my desire for food is less than my desire for tits.
At a certain point, his parents reconsidered the nudie mag situation. You had access to the nudie mag at any time, because at some point they took it away,
First
right?
I did, and then I had to ask for it, and I was allotted like short times to view it, and then I was asking for it all the time. So they started thinking there was probably a problem, and they shouldn't have given me the mag, because then I was asking them and they weren't giving them to me anymore. So I started looking for that thing elsewhere.
Why did they think pictures of nude women would make sure that their son turned out straight? Pretty sure it doesn't work that way.
My dad was 23, my mum was 20 when they had me. They had absolutely no bloody clue.
And did they want kids?
Did they want? I doubt so very much. Also because they got married when my mum was 3-4 months pregnant.
It was a shotgun wedding. What'd you learn about relationships from watching your parents?
Didn't get into one.
Looked bad?
It was pretty bad. But, I mean, what do you expect when you're forced to be with someone? Then that sucks all the fun out of it.
So you saw just nothing but obligation and misery?
Yeah, I never got on with my mum. Ever. Like, I actually, I liked her up until the point where she took away the men's mags. And then from then on, it just no love.
No love.
No, from my side.
Do you ever feel guilty about that?
No. She took away the men's mags.
Oh my God.
For fuck's sake.
After the nudie mags were rescinded, young Iena found himself with a great unnameable hunger.
Then I went on a quest to find that thing that I didn't even know what it was called. But it was hairy in the 80s.
Right, full bush.
It's full bush. This is, I'm talking maybe 1984.
You were very interested in full bush. So you go on this quest. ISO, full bush. ISO, breasts. Where did you see breasts? Where did you find breasts?
Right, so this is the thing. I grew up in the south of Italy, first 11 years. And this is a very European thing, especially Mediterranean, is newsagents' kiosks. Do you have them in the US as well? When it's got like a 360 window all around?
Oh, no.
It's like a kiosk, and it could be like octagonal, hexagonal, dodecagonal, whatever, agonal.
Okay, we have newsstands, but they are square.
Some of them are square.
Or maybe rectangles.
Yeah, I just never seen a
Pentagonal.
pentagonal one. I've never seen a pentagonal one.
But you're saying that this is circular, that these are circular.
They're not circular,
In the south of Italy.
octagonal or hexagonal or whatever. So they tend to have some of them more sides than 4. Just because we do things better than you.
It's glass or whatever? Or you...
Yeah, it's glass all around, right?
And so there are magazines
basically
all around?
360, yeah. And you go around and there'll be the fitness mags, and then there's the planes and military jet mags, and then there'll be the video game mags with the cassettes, because I'm old school. So when I grew up, I had a game
Cassette
console,
player?
with a cassette. And then there will be on the top shelf, there will be the naughty ones.
Which are usually in the States with a plastic over them that covers everything but the title.
Yeah, that's not how we roll.
That is not how you roll in southern Italy.
Oh, no.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I want those. And, that's also how I learned about biology and evolution, is that I accepted that it happens over hundreds of thousands of years and not a lifetime, because otherwise I'd have grown up to be 6'4", just trying to peep at all the mags that were on the top shelf. Whereas instead, I'm still a short ass. So that didn't work great. But I'd go there with friends and we'll climb on each other's shoulders or whatever, just to have a good look.
In his quest, he sought the company of those older than him and those much older than him.
That's where making friends with a guy who had newsagents came in handy.
Wait, you made friends with a newsagent?
Yes. And he was in his mid-20s and he was a sex fiend. So he took me under his wing.
How did you make friends with this newsagent sex fiend?
Because he was... this was a little bit later on. I must have been about 12. I always had much older friends than I was. I never found people my age interesting. I actually found it pretty fucking boring. So I wouldn't hang out with people my age. I'd hang out with their parents and talk about the things that my dad would teach me about, like the universe and astronomy and physics and chemistry and Roman and Egyptian mythology and stuff like that.
Since when have you had these older friends?
Always. I started going out and doing my own thing, and I was probably about 7 or 8. It was safe. I mean, this is not the States. This is semi-rural southern Italy.
Throughout his prepubescent and early teenage years, Iena had the benefit of several mentors, a series of more experienced boys and men.
First time I watched a porno was 7. This is when it was in my nan's town. We used to go there sometimes in the summer for a couple of weeks. It was a great place. And one of the neighbors was this lovely old lady. She had 3 sons. And I'd hang out with the middle one, who was probably, I'd say, about 10, 12 years older than me. By the time I was 7, it'd have been about almost 20. He went like, right, I'm going to show you something. So we went up in the attic-y thing, and he put a blanket over the air vent, which is where the light was coming through, and he set up this huge machine. There was a projector with the tape bobbins, like you've seen it. Yeah, it's proper old school. Like I'm talking about, was it mid-80s here?
But this is like a movie theater style projector?
Well, that's what you use at home. We didn't have VHS at the time. That's what you used before VHS.
So the projector in the attic, he sets it up.
Yeah, and he goes like, oh, check this out. Boom. Now all of a sudden there's the same contents as the mags. I mean, but the mags my mum used to give me, they didn't have like penetration or anything. They just had naked ladies. It wasn't like a proper hardcore smarts or anything like that. But now they're moving and they're doing it. And I was like, so that's what that thing, and I'm moving my leg sideways.
That's what that thing with the stiffy through the cage. Yes,
and then
that's where that goes.
Now it all made sense. It was like if I was supposed to know it all along, and it just clicked. And I was like, of course. I mean, I kind of had a vague idea that you're supposed to do something, but that was a graphic representation of the it's kind of like the abstract idea that I had in my head. You know, when you have a thought or something, it's a concept. but it's not a
Concrete.
graphic, right?
It's not a visual.
It's not a visual, that's right. And now I had the visual and I was like, yep, bang, that's what I want to do. And then I still had to wait a good 10 years before I got to do it. But during which I got a lot of training. I got a lot of mentoring, a lot of it.
They gave him the kind of initiation into sexual life that most young men seek and fail to find in pornography alone.
That's what you do when you are men. You kind of initiate one another and you take one under your wing, and then when you grow up you take one under your wing, and that's how I became what I am now.
Did you do that? Did you mentor a younger man into their sexuality?
Not quite to the extent that I was primed. Because we live in a completely different day and age where that would be, like, you'd end up in prison for a long time. It's not acceptable to do that anymore, but it was 30, 35 years ago.
I've long thought that if we had someone who was a proper guide when we were young, we would all be so much better off. But it's so taboo. It's so sanctioned.
It is with your parents, but that's why you'd find the older guy. It will usually be the friend's older brother or the neighbor's son, or, something like that. For me, it was my uncles. My uncles were about 10 and 14 years older than me. And I used to hang out with them a lot because we all grew up together. So I was around when they were hanging out with their friends, and obviously they were in their late teens, early 20s. So all they were talking about was women and sex. So I'd hear all about it. I'd be like, right. And I'd learn about like different positions and also learn about how you make a woman pregnant, which my parents didn't talk to me about, which I didn't learn at school. But I learned it from them.
Wow, so you had no sex ed at school?
No.
And none at home?
No. My mum gave me a condom once I was 15. I was like, probably older. And I was like, yeah, don't worry. It's all been learned like 10 years ago.
It's a bit late. Yeah, it's a bit late.
It's late, definitely. I think it should be taught literally as you are learning to read and write and colours and names of animals. You'll also learn that if you stick it in and you then strap it up, you'll probably make babies. So it was my uncle's friends.
And then there was Livio.
Oh, God bless Livio. Livio was great. He was my dad's colleague. This is when we moved to Milan. So I was 11. I just finished elementary school and we moved big city. I came from a small city, very small, backwards in the south. And I was like a kid in a candy store, A, because there were a lot more newsagent stands. So there was a bigger variety of magazines to go and look at. And B, because you just have access to more stuff. As soon as we moved there, we were staying in this lodging house thing because only one of my parents had found a job and I just arrived as well. So, and the rent was really expensive. So they were still trying to save money. We were in this lodging place where it's kind of like a halfway house. Moroccan drug dealers, just whatever. And my dad's roommate was Livio. They worked together. And Livio had some form of retardation. But he still managed to get a job. Basically, his family didn't want to know after his parents died. They were very distant to him. They didn't really want to have anything to do with him. So he went like, well, fuck you. And he went and he got a job. Same job as my dad was doing. It's just that it was difficult to understand him because I've got my own mental issues. And I get uncomfortable if I can't get communication going with someone, if I don't understand what they're saying or whatever. And he's talking when something like... and then you had to figure out what he said. And at first it made me really uncomfortable because I did not have a bloody clue what he was saying. My dad seemed to kind of understand him. I would just smile there and nod because I felt awkward saying, I don't understand you.
Yeah.
And then with time I began to understand him. And it was mostly like the tonality of the sounds that he made Then when my dad would go away and he would leave me with Livio, because obviously he was his colleague and he was really nice. And I was like, yeah, it's nice to hang out together. What he didn't know is that was a 3-person room and there were only 2 of them staying there. And that's because Livio also rented out a second bed. A second bed was a stash for his porn magazine collection.
What?
Right? Underneath and on the mattress under the blanket, it was just stuffed with hundreds. And he had all types, all colors, all varieties, interracial, old chicks, young chicks. They had the shaven bush as well, which is when I got introduced to them. I was like, oh, that's weird. It looks like a wound. And then I started taking a liking to it slowly. And what else did it have? It had the fat chicks, the skinny chicks, the fake tits, and the small tits, and the gangbang, and the comic book ones, and the glossy ones, and he had it all.
Wow.
And he was having a ball of a time initiating me to his extensive porn collection. And that's when I understood. I mean, I still didn't understand fully what he was saying, but when it was high pitched, kind of like, it would go something like, that meant, no, this one's not really good, leave it. And then when I pick something up or he'll pass me something, or go, like the high pitch one, I was like, he was excited, and that means that's a good shit. Right? you want to look at that one, right? And then I'll look through, go like, all right, we go, yeah, that's good, isn't it? All right, I'll pass you the good shit. But yeah, he had good taste. He also blew half of his salary on porn.
I can't believe he rented an entire bed for his porn collection.
Mm-hmm. So my dad would be gone all day when it was his day off, and like I'll stay home with Livio, and all we'll do is look at smutty mags. That was great. But then there've been, like, over a decade and a half, there've been several changes of management in my mentorship. You know, there will be my neighbour's son, then there will be my uncle's friends, then there'll be the newsagent's guy. I made friends with the newsagent, so I had free access to all the shit. And he also gave me some really good mentorship because he got loads of women. And it was him and his buddy. I think by the time they were in their mid-20s, they'd already slept with triple digits of women.
Newsagent man taught 12-year-old Iena
techniques, everything, both the physical and the psychological.
Things that many grown men still don't know.
How to finger a woman, how to find the clitoris. I mean, that was a big one. I started learning how to find and how to handle the clitoris when I was 12. We had enough printed material to illustrate, well, this is where this is, and then there's a hood over it, and if you pull up, then you uncover it, and then you gotta touch it, but you can't be too harsh. You gotta be very, very gentle, and also your hand is dry, so you gotta lick it. And you lick it a little bit, and you turn it with a circular motion, very slowly, and then every now and again you give it a gentle tap. And you go, like, you circle 2-3 times, and you give it a couple of taps, very gentle, and you keep doing that.
What if all young men who crave women were taught how to please them?
And then they'll tell me stories, like they'll put it into context, and they'll give me a settings for it, which obviously it made it even more appealing to me.
Of course.
Because it wasn't just bare knowledge they were giving me, it was the application of it as well. And then I'll see some of the women that came in there that they'd fucked, and some of them were really quite hot. And I could see the way that they looked at them while they were, especially the one guy. The other one wasn't always around, but the newsagent's guy, he was. And they'll come there and they'll clean his shop for him, they'll cover for him while he was going to do something. He wouldn't pay them, they just did it because he was fucking them. He also was rumored to have a 9-incher.
When you said how they looked at him, you mean with lust, or you mean
yeah, of course. Of course, like they looked. I can see now that I had that happen to me, is how they look at you when you show them how to get fucked properly, and they look at you differently. They taught me a lot of things that I do to this day. There was a lot of good material in there. G-spot, anal.
A couple of years later, his dad's friends took over his extracurricular schooling.
When we moved to a permanent flat in Milan, We used to walk the dog, and then there was a park, and then at night there would be all the riffraffs, and there were all the grown-up kids that were smoking pot and doing drugs and whatnot. They were the up to no good kids, who obviously I was drawn to at first, and my dad wasn't really happy about that. So he was reluctant to let me go and walk the dog at night on my own, because he knew I'd hang out with the wrong companies. And then there were some older guys right at the end of the park. I was kind of like less lit, and they looked dodgy as fuck, so I never even ventured that far. But he did, and it turns out they were actually really nice guys. But they were older. They were in their late 20s to mid-30s. And they were a group of friends, one of whom was a cop, and they all had dogs, and they used to just meet at the bench in the park every evening and hang out, because that's what people did before the internet and Facebook and Instagram. Either go around someone's place and buzz them and say, do you want to go and hang out? And I go, like, yeah, cool. Or you just know that everybody will be at the bench in the park at 7 o'clock. So you just go there, and that was a place to be. And so it began. So I went there, and it made, obviously they were all respectable looking people with jobs and girlfriends, and one was a cop. So he then felt comfortable with me going there, because he knew they weren't going to allow me to hang out with the dodgy kids in the park. In fact, I think the cop might have gone there and had a word with them about not even thinking about it. So I found myself hanging out with them, and they were okay. They were more interesting than the grown-up kids, because I had no interest in drugs and pot, and they had a lot of knowledge of women.
It's interesting that you never got into drugs, because women was such an all-encompassing vice. Women were such an all-encompassing vice.
Yeah, I mean, they have tits, don't they? It's amazing.
Your favorite thing.
Yeah, and there's a woman attached to them as well. How cool is that?
I mean, tits on their disembodied
Free
tits are
woman with
maybe a
every tit.
little bit less exciting.
Marginally. I mean, I do value immensely the female company and the whole female form, but like tits, that's what really makes the experience.
Sure, but you don't want them like on a wall.
Oh man, if it was me, I'd cover the whole inside of my house in tits. Instead of wallpaper, I'd have tits. I mean, I'd have them with like big nipples, small nipples, fried egg nipple, couple saggy ones for variety. I'd have black ones, Asian ones, white ones, big ones, enormous ones, gigantic ones. That'd be a pretty cool wallpaper to have. That'd be cool for an art project. Anyway, they taught me more tricks. Namely, there's one that I still use to this day, and it drives women wild.
And now, let us all learn how to suck tits.
How to suck tits. And it was just the other day, a woman I was with said, you know what I really like about you is you really know how to suck tits. Most guys don't know how to suck tits. They think they know, they think they're doing something right, but really they're just messing about. They fondle you. Like they found this jello thing and they're handling it.
Mostly I'm like, you could just leave it alone. Like it's not going to do anything for me.
Well, she goes like, you really put your everything in it. Like you suck tits like you mean business. The way that I was taught was, you get to kiss around them and then you start licking around the breast, but don't get to the nipple yet. Wait. There's no hurry. Just don't rush it. Now you're going around and then you're licking them in a spiral. And the spiral's closing in. It's getting closer and closer to the nipple, but slowly. Like you're looking at doing at least 8, 10, 15 circles around before you go anywhere near the areola. And that's when you get to the areola, you'll find that they start getting turgid. And even the areola will get those little bumpy things on it. And that's when you know you're doing something right. I guess and then you wait. and then you do a figure of 8 and you move to the other breast. And you start it all over again. And then when you come halfway, then you move back to the other one. And you keep doing that, and you do a figure of 8 and you switch between one and the other, getting closer to the nipple every time. When they both look like they're so hard they're going to stab you in the face any minute, that's when you grab her tits and you squeeze them together with your thumb in the middle, so they're kind of pivoting on their inside axis and their nipples almost touching, that's when you get both of them in your mouth and you suck them together, flicking your tongue side to side, and then you give them a little nibble as well with your molars. And that is how you eat tits. And boy, it is.
This is what his mentors taught him about the G-spot.
I learned so well about its texture and its position that I had no trouble finding it, which is about, and we did metrics actually, it wasn't an inch, it was between 2 and 4 centimeters in. On the top of the vagina, she's lying on her back, and it goes from, there's a bumpy bit right at the beginning when you insert your finger, and then there's a softer bit that feels a little like the roof of your mouth. It's got that same texture. It's a little bumpier, but like smaller bumps, and it's soft if you tap on it, and then you'll know when you find it, because she'll tell you. Well, she won't tell you all words, but you'll know when you just look at her. You'll know when you found it. So it's easy enough, really. Just keep it centered at 12 o'clock, and then go in and out and then look for a reaction and look for that texture. And when you found it, just go for the come hither gesture. I can use my middle finger, or I can use my index finger interchangeably, depending on how deep it is, because everyone's different. If I use 2, I tend to use the ring finger and middle finger, simply because they're longer and because you can get more, you can reach a deeper spot. So when you're doing the deep spot, you want to use the middle and ring finger. If you're doing the middle finger and the forefinger, you're going to have your hand on an angle, because otherwise it kind of stops, your knuckles will stop it. Mm-hmm. So you go on an angle, which means then your finger are bent towards your forefinger, and you're losing a little bit of length.
You use your left hand?
I'm ambidextrous when it comes to these things, actually.
Really?
But I guess my right hand is the more resilient one, because sometimes you could go for quite a while. So this is what it comes down to. I am massively disjointed.
Wow,
Yes,
you are.
right?
He's bending his pointer
I-
finger and pinky finger way, way, way back towards his wrist.
It's pretty much 180 degrees.
Holy moly.
I gain a lot. I gain about half an inch or so.
Oh,
Right.
yeah. Yes. I was just thinking how tiring that would be, but if you're double jointed, I think then much easier.
Yeah. So yeah, that might be my secret.
Wow.
I feel like was it Paganini? It was the violinist that had was it called Morphone syndrome? The one where your fingers can span really, really wide.
Can splay.
Yeah, so they could hit more notes. Anyway, I do the same with vaginas. That's my instrument of choice.
So then you do the come hither.
They will come hither, and then there's that's where the two schools of thoughts split, which is just the regular keep doing it until she comes, and the hit it like it insulted your mother and make her squirt kind of thing. And one's a lot more vigorous than the other. And I find that if you start with one until I call it the orgasmic platform.
Orgasmic platform is my new favorite term. Oh, ye lovers of vaginas, please, please attend to the orgasmic platform.
Which is the build up to the orgasm, which encompasses the foreplay is the biggest foundation of an orgasm, in my opinion. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours.
Yes, please. God. Please say it again.
That's another thing.
Tell them all.
I just thank my dad's friends. I thank the cop. Another thing that he taught me was
It's like, do you have someplace else to be? You know, like why are you in such a hurry? Like what could be what else do we want to do? Like,
Yeah.
everything is geared towards this. Like, let's spend time here.
Yeah, let's say worst case scenario, you just been for dinner and you wined her and dined her and then you gave her a great time and you went and watched a comedy show and you go to the laugh and you went for dessert somewhere else and you go home and it's quite late. It's like 11 o'clock. You then have to be up for work until 7 o'clock the next day. That gives you 8 hours. You can go to work like a zombie for one day. They're going to forgive you. Just tell them you had a rough night's sleep. Just tell them you're sick. But that leaves you 8 hours to play. People go like, I'm sleepy. Make yourself a coffee. Everyone's got coffee.
Good things take time.
Yeah, I mean, it starts before when you get her to laugh and then with innocent-ish touch and soft talking and topics that you pick and the words that you pick within your topics. I can get a woman soaking wet by talking to her about combustion engines and how cars run.
Really?
And I'm not even joking. Well, yeah, it's just because there's a cylinder block that has holes forged into it, and then there's a piston, which is exactly the same. The bore of the piston is exactly the same size as the sleeve it moves up and down on. And then when it goes in all the way and it's about to hit the head of the cylinder, which reaches the end of its thrust, then a spark takes place and then there's an explosion that pushes it back out and it goes again, and then as it warms up you can go faster. Yeah, combustion engines are sexy.
And wetness ensues. There's a beautiful quote, I think it's Esther Perel, and she says that the sex begins at the end of the previous session, basically. Then it begins again, right? And then it's about how you're interacting and the touches and the suggestions and the conversation and the lead up and then the...
My God, that could be an entire new podcast, which is how to handle the post-orgasmic awkward silence. You know, I think that's the biggest killer of like a sexual vibe, is that people don't get taught what to do after they have sex. You know, think about all the movies and all they do is people are just, the one on top kind of rolls over to the other side and you light a cigarette and you just lay there in awkward silence smoking.
Or more likely they cut away.
Or the dude just pulls up his pants and he's on his way. He's got, I gotta go. Because that's 80% of the time what happens. And that's because that part is awkward. There's also a lot of lack of understanding. The female orgasm, the curve of the female orgasm, if it was represented on a graph, is very different from a guy. So say X, which is the vertical axis, is intensity, and Y, which is the horizontal axis, is time. You will have a very smooth, long curve that builds up and builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it peaks. And it peaks and stays there for a while, and then it slowly drops again. And then that's a woman's.
Okay.
That's a woman's. And then think about the male. The male, you're basically running on 0 or 1. So it goes between 1 and 10 intensity. It kind of goes 0, 1, and then it goes. And if you like, it goes on for longer than 10 minutes. And then whoa, there's this spike, and then it lasts about 5 seconds flat, and then it goes down to a minus value.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, all the guilt in the world catches up with you. And if you weren't 100% into that one and you were just doing it because you were horny and you didn't fancy her, that's when you realize what you just did. And your self-esteem is looking at you and go like, what have you done? What have you done? And then they leave in a rush. I think this was something to do with some Greek literature that I was reading or being read when I was a kid. I said somebody went to an oracle and I said, how is sexual pleasure distributed between the man and the woman? And the oracle said, well, if you divide it into 10 parts, 9 of them belong to the woman and only 1 of them belongs to the man. So, which is why, even if you are gifted with a simultaneous orgasm, as soon as the guy comes, it's like, whoa, oh, God. And 2 minutes, and he's out of there. And the woman is still there, kind of like having full body shakes and everything. It was like, what the fuck? Where you go? What? Why? And it's horrible.
Still going
because of the way the curve goes. Like for her, she's peaked, but she hasn't come down yet. Whereas the guy, it's literally just a spike and it drops down.
On the female graph, it can go multiple.
It can go multiple. So, I mean, technically the male one can as well, but it's a lot harder.
I was actually
have to. I've heard of a few guys who could do it through people that I've spoken to who had partners like that, but I've probably heard of 3 or 4.
I know one.
All right, here you go. It happened to me twice.
I was amazed. I was like, did you? But you just. How did you keep?
Yeah.
He's like, you said keep going. I was like, I did, but like.
That's husband material.
But how
right
did
there.
you do it?
Yeah, it happened to me, I think, twice, but that was it.
This story is about one of those times.
Felt pretty intense.
What made that time different?
GHB and having 2 girls go down on me at the same time.
Did you say GHP?
Yeah, I don't think you can say that on a podcast.
Yeah, you can. You can say anything.
You can? Sweet.
What is it?
It's it's a drug, but it's not really a drug because it's you can buy it on the internet. It's gamma hydrobutyl something else, and it was discovered and developed in around the 1950s as an anesthetic, if I remember correctly.
To numb?
To numb. And it was used in dentistry and in other applications where general anesthetic was not advisable. What it does is it knocks you out for a short amount of time, say about half an hour, 45 minutes, and then you just naturally come back round. And if you want to keep a person under, you just administer more. The problem with that was that all of a sudden, Big Pharma couldn't sell you 15 different drugs, one to prep you to go under, one to put you under, one to keep you under, another one to make sure you stayed under while you're being kept under, and then a whole team of nurses and whatever they call an anesthetician, anesthesiologist, and a ventilator and machines to monitor you and whatnot. It was basically it got swept under the carpet pretty quickly. No side effects and almost impossible to overdose. And even if you do, it was almost impossible to kill you. They were quick to get rid of it. So then the gays and the bodybuilders rediscovered it in the 80s. And because it puts you into a state of very deep sleep or very deep relaxation, it stimulates the production of growth hormone, which occurs when you are in REM phase, very deep sleep. And that's what makes you grow. So the bodybuilders were taking it. And the gay community discovered that if you took a smaller dose, which wasn't enough to knock you out, is very similar to ecstasy. Very warm, fuzzy, touchy feeling, sensual, similar to doing MDMA, but much, much, much cleaner and less of a commitment because you're not spending 4 hours fucked up. It's half an hour, 45 minutes. And then it just wears off and you're ready to get on with your day. No hangover, no come down, no shitty feeling or anything. If anything, you feel more rested.
Huh.
That's amazing.
When did you take it in relation to what was happening sexually?
Oh, well, we were having a play party. Mm-hmm. And my poison of choice is MDMA with GHB. They've got this synergetic effect together, which is amazing. Obviously, you're going to get the dosage right. GHB got a really bad rep from being used as a date rape drug, and so having it or trying to obtain it is very frowned upon because people are just going to think you're going to go out and rape people.
Wow.
And B, because some people did get themselves fucked up on it. Like everything else, it can become addictive. And you can't mix it with alcohol, which most people who are ignorant about it, which is most people, will do when they're partying, and that is bad because the GHB won't kill you, but you will end up doing a Jimi Hendrix, which for people that don't know it is you pass out laying face up and you puke on yourself and then you drown in your own sick.
Oh, wow.
And then people have died that way. So don't mix it with alcohol ever, not even a little bit. But people, you'd be amazed at how stupid people are and how they'll still do it thinking it's going to be fine, thinking, oh, but it's only a little sip, or but it's only one drink, or but it's been 2 hours. And the excuses they'll make until they make themselves sick. And there's not much you can do. Some people will listen to you, some people will not. And then they kind of ruin the party because you have to have a designated sober person to babysit this person for the next 2 hours while they're passed out, making sure they don't drown in their own vomit. And then they'll hear about it when they wake up.
You were not drinking, obviously. You were just doing ecstasy and GHP.
That's right.
And you took it before the party?
No, we took it at the party. I was there with my partner, and then we got another girl in. It all got pretty hot. I mean, it amplifies. What it does is it makes everything more intense, a lot more intense. So the sexual vibe, the physical, the sensations of sex, it's almost like your whole body turns into a sex organ.
Huh.
And boundaries between bodies and body parts fade until you don't, like, you feel like you're fused in another body and you're touching, and you can't even tell if you're touching yourself or someone else, and you're feeling it through through their body into yours, and or who's touching you anymore, which is also why it's very important to do in a safe space, because once you're in it, anything goes. Almost.
You won't even necessarily discern who's touching you.
And if you do, you may tend not to care. So it is best done in a very safe space when you know that worst case scenario, you're with people you want to be with anyway. Because you don't want to do things that you then regret. I guess very awkward very quickly.
Yeah.
Not to mention the safety issue of it. So anyway, in this case, I've always been very selective about the companies I keep in these situations. So in this case, it was great because I was with these two super attractive women. One of them was my partner, and another one, a girl that we'd picked up on the way, and we knew her from before. And they were both on their knees giving me head. So at some point I remember, obviously it's all very fuzzy, but I remember at some point I had my partner bent over, and I was fucking her from behind, and then I had this other girl who was on her knees with her head between her legs. So then I'll take it out of my partner and I'll put it into this other girl's mouth, and I'm just kind of switching between the two. And then I could kiss this other girl and taste my partner's juices in her mouth, which is awesome. And then my partner would kiss her and she could taste mine. And then at some point they were both on their knees sucking me off, and that's when I came, and I came a lot. And I remember they were kind of competing, like they're trying to get it in their mouth. And I was thinking, oh my God, I've only got one cock. It was the first time in my life when I felt like I was one cock short. It's a terrible feeling. I know you're thinking first world problems, but right then when you're in the moment, that's all that matters. And it was almost like the feeling of not being enough. And then I thought, I'm not going to not be enough. And so I just kept to one, and I gave her a fill, and then I came out and said, you know what, I've got another one for you. And that's when I thought, oh my God, I'm actually doing it. And they both got their fill, and they were happy, and so was I. That's what you call a win-win-win.
How does it even work to have two people giving you a blowjob at the same time? One person near the head, one person on the shaft, or like how does...
there's that, or one of them will be taking the whole thing, and another one will be sucking your balls or rimming you, or they'd be kind of French kissing with your cock in the way, which is really fucking hard. That's one of my favorite.
That sounds fun.
But really, the best thing to do is to have two cocks. And otherwise, you just get them to take turns.
When you said you decided, all right, I'm not going to be not enough in this moment. So you came fully in one girl's mouth, and then you came again?
Something like that. But basically,
there were other things.
It was a lot fuzzier and messier than that. Because even though the thought is that, the implementation, when you are shooting out semen everywhere, when you kind of switch away, is that there is cum everywhere, and there's saliva everywhere, and then it's just a bit, it's like the Far West, man.
The Far West. The wild west.
Yes.
I wanted to know about Iena's first sexual experience. One fateful night, the cop and his friends took Iena out cruising.
So that was when I was 15, and they must have decided that I had enough theory. So they told my dad that they were taking me out. And my dad was really happy about it, because then I'd get to hang out with some good, respectable people and his friends. Obviously, he trusted them because they were nice guys.
Yeah, but every nice guy knows that nice guys aren't really nice guys.
Oh, my dad did. My dad had a very... Well, it wasn't a very sheltered childhood, but he just believed in the good of people, I guess. I don't know. Oh, I hope he never gets to listen to this. Dad, if you are, just switch off now. Well, you did everything right. But you could. It was just meant to be this way. It's not you, it's me.
So the cop and the
cop and his friends, they told my dad that they're taking me out, and he goes like, "Well, we'll probably be out till late." And my dad's like, "Yeah, no problem." And they do, and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's nice. They're taking me out. Where are we going?" I thought they'll take me drinking, because I knew I loved drinking when I was younger. I started really early, and we went out, and then we started driving through the red light district, and there was a lot of street prostitution going on. I was like, oh, okay, that's not what the drinking district.
It's not like the red light district in Amsterdam where there are windows and girls in the windows.
No, this is just streets that you drive, and then they are on the side of the road. And I don't think you get that much of it now, actually. It's right now it's a lot seedier, and there's the whole human trafficking issue and crime behind it. But back then, that was just a normal thing to do. You didn't have brothels. You did have brothels in Italy up until the 50s or 60s, and then they passed a law and they closed them all down, and then strict prostitution flourished.
He realized then that they were taking him to see a sex worker. The sex workers in this part of town were largely Brazilian and mostly trans. The guys in the car seemed to be looking for a trans woman who could pass.
What I didn't know then is that cop dude had already, this had been a long time into the making. They'd been planning it. So what he did, he was quite the like bully cop, or like, strong presence.
Like
sheriff in
burly
town.
guy?
He was a massive guy. He was huge. And he also liked to make his presence felt. So he must have gone there in uniform and in the cop car to let them know who the sheriff in town was. And then when he went back just in his regular car, all he'll do is honk the horn. They'll see it was, and they'll drop whatever transaction they were doing through a window of other cars, and it will come straight to our car. And they'll go like, all right, this is my little nephew, and we're taking him out to have a good time because he's never had one.
And they found her.
We stopped at another one, and she was hot. Her name was Gija, and she had this black pointy bob. It was like that comic book by Krepax called Valentina. It was like a cult thing in the 70s, I guess. It was an erotic comic. And she had this pale skin and super sharp black bob with a flat fringe. And she really reminded me of her. And she had these perfect breasts, probably a bit too perfect. And by this point, they opened the door and they unceremoniously kicked me out of the car and closed the door. And at first I remember just going for the door handle and trying to pull it, and I realized it was locked, and I realized there was no way back in, so I thought I wouldn't embarrass myself and I'll just embrace my fate. And I took it on the chin. I was like, okay, so this is happening, and this is it.
This is the one they've chosen for me.
And they go like, right, this is the one. I'm like, all right. And I march towards my fate. and so she takes my hand. She walks me like across the curb and behind some bushes. And she starts feeling me out. And obviously I got a raging hard on. And then she puts the condom on me and she gets down on her knees and she starts giving me a blowjob. And at this point, I'm like, I want a tit wank. That's what I want, because I've seen it in the movies and I've seen it in the magazines, and I know, and I've never done it, but I know that's what I want. So she was more than happy to oblige. And then she kept wanking me off and sucking my cock until I came. And she was happy. And then we walked out and she said something in a very sensual, kind of husky voice. But you know, when women have that really sensual, bit low-pitched voice.
No, I have no idea.
Well, anyway, she had one. And she came out, still holding my hand, walking me back towards the car, holding the condom in front of her to show my friends. She's going like, he's made. And they unlocked the door so I could climb back in.
And so the fellows paid for Iena's first blowjob. To this day, Iena doesn't know if the woman who gave him his seminal tit wank was a trans woman. For him, this was a cause of concern for years, because, apparently, according to the transphobic and homophobic code of Italian machismo, the simple fact of having engaged in a sexual act with a trans woman would make him gay. Just so we're all clear, that's not how sexual identity works. And eventually, Iena realized that.
It's just something that I will always be somewhat curious about. As I age, it becomes less and less important.
The cop, who seemed to know the gender identity of the sex worker, said he would take that secret with him to the grave. He also told Iena that it didn't matter. Iena enjoyed himself, didn't he? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. This episode was mixed and mastered by Irving Goddori of igrecording.com. My beautiful cover art was illustrated by Shauna Shea, whom you can find on 99 Designs. The remix of my original intro music was created by Kid Mental, whose motto is theme songs for everyone. You don't have to be a podcaster to get a theme song of your very own by supporting him on Fiverr or on Patreon. Thank you for listening to this experimental episode. And if you have an idea for another horizontal experiment, or if you just want to share the impact a particular episode had on you, don't hesitate to reach out. Email me, lila@horizontalwithlila.com. It absolutely lights me up to know when something I've made is meaningful to you. To gain access to part 2 of this interview with Iena, the upcoming patron-exclusive episode 122, which includes a bewildering, messy story of a sexual exploit with a Scandinavian, become a patron of the Horizontal Arts on patreon.com/horizontalwithlila. Until next time, horizontal lover, May you have someone to love. May you have something to do. And may you have something to look forward to. I'm looking forward to the possibility of a kinky Christmas and a quiet, pleasure-filled New Year. Oh, and thank you. Thank you for getting horizontal.
I'll guarantee you, this is hundreds of tits later, I'll guarantee you that most women will never have this had to them ever in their lives. And they'll just go like, oh, what the fuck? And the look in their face when you're doing it, that's the most priceless thing.
What do you see?
Beauty.